Damo, there has been a lot made about Tom De Koning and the last 4 to 6 weeks in his slump in form. Some will make the argument that he's checked out because of the St Kilda situation. You can provide more context.
Yeah, that's fine if people have that particular view. He's obviously filling, or partially filling, the void of Harry Mackay, who's out injured, and we don't know if he comes back this year as a forward. But I think more pertinently, Sam, he is badly suffering the effects of a serious larynx damage that he sustained back in round 9 against St Kilda. Missed the following week against the Sydney Swans, but has played since, but has been playing under significant sufferance. And it's still serious enough for him to be weekly consulting with a specialist in this space. And he has been having trouble even breathing at certain points of certain matches since sustaining the damage back in round 9.
Is that convenient that that start to come out now, given that prior to that, so in between the injury and his slump in form, he was going through a purple patch?
Oh, it's hard to know. Like, yeah, I'm pretty hard normally and say I think it's probably more an excuse than anything. But, yeah, I don't want to put down... breathing is an issue if he's not covering the ground as well as anything, but might be a bit tentative as well with what he's doing. But I think the other elements of what's going, Carlton's poor form and the decision he's got to make would be bigger than the injury would be.
The interesting point with St Kilda is that, you know, you talk to people in and around this space and they would say that it's only an initial offer from St Kilda and that perhaps there's more room in the salary cap, more bullets in the chamber.
More than 1.7, or you're saying more years potentially for him?
I think they could probably pull either lever. He hasn't told his management, he hasn't told St Kilda, he hasn't told Carlton what he's doing. But I'd be surprised now if St Kilda let this guy slip through their grasp because of the money that they have.
Lloyd, you obviously played the full forward craft as well as anyone in the history of the game. What do you see when you see Tom De Koning up there? Again, for two reasons. One, to cover for Mackay, but also because of the larynx damage that he's suffering.
When you look at this vision, good luck being any forward down there because of the kicks that are coming in and the numbers that are back there and how slow the ball movement is. Their skill level is really poor. But De Koning has never kicked more than 9 goals in a season. So he kicked 9 goals in 23, 9 goals in 24, and he's kicked 5 goals this year. So they're drafting him to be a ruckman. I think Luke Jackson would be the player that I'd be saying model your game on. So Luke Jackson isn't a huge goal kicker, but he looks dangerous when he goes down there. He moves well. He's starting to time his leads a little bit better, and he's a great mobile ruckman, Jimmy.
Yeah, if you're going to play him forward, I prefer him to play as the higher forward, so he can at least come in on that fat side kick where we can run and launch at it. He looks a little bit lost just because he doesn't have the experience that forward craft. And again, Damo, we're talking to one of the greats to come out of the goal square. It is a different craft coming out of the goal square, especially with numbers in front of you, instead of leading up and then coming back in where he can run and jump at the footy.
What do you think, Jimmy, where, as I've said, 9 goals? So history tells you he's not a forward, he's not a goal kicker, but how do you see the way they're playing him compared to Pitnet? Would it have anything to do with the fact that he's leaving the club, do you think?
Yeah, I think, look, they do have a hole in their forward line and they need the second key forward, and Pitnet is definitely a ruck, and I think they see the athleticism of TDK and can he stretch the opposition's defence. He got Harris Andrews as the matchup and they probably thought, well, that might help, obviously, Curnow be freed up. But like I said, he's not a natural forward, so play him a little bit higher because you need some serious savvy to find space inside forward 50.
What happens if they lose well to the D's this weekend?
I don't think it changes anything. I think Graham Wright would be making his decisions anyway. I think there'd be decisions being already in the pipeline of where they're going to go forward. I think whether they lose to Melbourne by 4 goals or 5 goals, I don't think it matters whether they get beaten by 6 goals to Melbourne or they lose in a small margin. I think the decisions have got to be more based on the long term, not just based off this weekend.
But Jimmy, isn't it? I completely hear what you're saying, but isn't it important to the fans? You know, like, so yeah. I think the last 2 weeks losing to Brisbane and Collingwood, you can sell that. Like, they're the grand finalists, the last 2 premiers. You can sell that, look, we're a bit behind them. If they were to get rolled badly by a team below them who have been to hell and back in the last 24 months, I think the vision to your fans becomes a little bit more difficult to sell.
But doesn't that rip the Band-Aid off? Like, there'd be an argument if you're a Carlton fan and go, expose all our warts so we can get to the absolute bottom of what's going on with us. We saw last week...
Feels like they've been doing that for a while.
It does, but they've sort of middled a little bit too. They've produced a good quarter, a good 5 to 10 minutes. And I watched the other night against Brisbane, and it's like the skill execution let them down. So I know people have their comments on Michael Voss, but if you're missing handballs from a metre or 2 away, which sets you back, with some of you kicking inside forward 50, which we've highlighted for 2 years, Lloyd has stood up in front of that screen, and we just mentioned TDK would struggle anyone with that ball coming in. So if they take a bad loss against Melbourne, right, the Band-Aid's off and it's all exposed, out in the light.
Essendon's season has been borderline disastrous on so many fronts. The injury issue being one of them. It was already the worst in the competition by some stretch. 2 more players went down with significant injuries on the weekend in a loss to Richmond, Nick Martin and Will Setterfield, and coach Brad Scott was basically at a loss for words post-match.
For us, I mean, it's trying to put on a sort of brave face and be positive and upbeat, which is what you need to be as a leader, but it's getting sort of hard to deny it's not flattening. Yeah, for the team and the club, I can't think of a situation like this in my time in footy with these these 12 months injuries that are mounting up. It's going to be a real challenge to keep everyone's morale up, but that's the job of leaders.
So the problem has clearly affected adversely 2025 in isolation, but these injuries are now stretching into 2026 as well. And already, before that season even starts, when Brad Scott will then be on the second last of the 2 years remaining of his deal, he's not going to be having access to Nick Martin. He's not going to have access to other players who may choose to leave. We'll get onto that in a moment. But this is almost a 2-season problem now, Lloyd.
It is, Damo, and Nick Martin's one of the players at least you go and you know he's going to be a good player. You trust that he'll be in your best 3 players every week, and that's the hard part. There's not many others you can say has improved or enhanced their reputation this year. And you look at the injuries, like the Adelaide Crows, Darren Burgess is lauded for what he does. Some of it's good management and some of it's luck. So I'm not saying, it can't help ACLs, but look at that list and look at what Adelaide are heading into August and the big months. An injury could happen this week, but unbelievable what he's been able to do.
You're saying that it can't all be luck, that difference?
No, it's good management and luck. It's a bit of both, but that's what the Bombers will be looking at. But it's just been an extraordinary year. The sooner this year ends for them, the better.
Yeah, and they've got, to Damo's point, they've got some decisions to make list-wise, Lloyd. And if you look at their group of their most important players, which we think we've probably got here, how many of these guys, Lloyd, can you put a circle around and say, yep, your effort and your injury profile, your body is going to hold us in good stead for the next 3, 4, 5 years?
Oh, well, at their best. So Merritt, Caldwell, so that top row, Draper, I'm not sure where he stands.
So Martin's out for a year, Draper's on the way out, Merritt's asking questions. Mackay hasn't been the player that they wanted, Parrish doesn't play, McGrath's been a stalwart for that club, Langford's looking around, Wright hasn't been the player that we thought, and there's been question marks on plenty of those guys. How many of those guys do you trust going into the future? It's tough when your core group is like that, I reckon.
Yeah, you can't trust too many at the moment. I'd say Merritt, Durham and Caldwell are the 3 that you trust, but I'm saying they've got some injuries to Caldwell now as well.
We sat here a week ago and talked about, we asked the question, is it better for both parties if they look for Zach Merritt leaving? Have you swung one way or the other in the 7 days?
I've always been, if he wants to stay, of course you want him to stay.
What if he's looking around though?
I'd still try and entice him to want to stay, Zach Merritt. He's their best player by far. He's their captain, best leader, best player. So you don't want to let him go. Are you suggesting that you take an extra couple of picks in the top 15?
I think where they're at, I think it could be a win for both parties. I never would have thought that about a captain leaving a footy club before, but is Zach Damo really going to be part of the next group going forward?
Look, I think when you've got a player of such quality, I don't see too many reasons you'd willingly allow him to leave, particularly under contract.
But his head was turned by St Kilda last year, and all due respect to St Kilda, they're not in the premiership window. Imagine if a Hawthorn or a Geelong came knocking.
Yeah, it'd be turned harder, and I think more significantly from a do I leave perspective if a big football club came to him with a serious offer, which I actually do feel could happen given what's happened again to Essendon and him this year. The contest within the wider West Coast Eagles Port Adelaide game yesterday, I love the theatre attached, guys, to what happened here with these 2 number 1 draft picks. Jason Horne-Francis there of Power, and obviously Harley Reid of the Eagles, and the banter there and the referencing to going home after 1 year, which Harley Reid there did. Lauder, you've been observing these 2 players, but particularly Harley Reid, and an attitude that you have made comment on before. Is he now close to the end of his 2nd season, Harley Reid, carrying on like this too long and too often?
I think so. We'll play what Andrew McQualter had to say after the game, and then I'll make some comments on that. Here's Andrew McQualter.
If you have all the players being as competitive as he is, you're on the right track, but he clearly crossed the line too many times tonight. I've had that chat with Harley already. He knows it, and he's going to play up to that line every single week. And that's where we want him, and we want it to be a dance with a line that he doesn't step over it.
I don't know if they've feared losing this man, and of course they would. They'd fear, but I can't believe it's still at this point where he was their best player on the weekend, so big tick for that. You know, he's a young man, still their best player, but he gave away 6 free kicks, and we look at free kicks given away for the year. He's given away the most of any player by a long, long way. So
you're questioning their leadership.
Yes. Yes.
That's a pretty big accusation and a pretty big indictment on West Coast.
Yeah, whether it's coaches, I'm talking senior players, everyone, that he's still fighting and scrapping all day long.
So just to be clear, if he was playing at, say, Collingwood or Brisbane, the last 2 premiers, you think this would have been stamped out earlier?
Yeah, I wouldn't think he'd still be doing it.
But the point of difference would be that if he got into a scrap, there'd be half a dozen Collingwood players with that much experience who would step in the way. And so this is where he's carrying a heavy load here. Elliot Yeo last year was a great support for him, but he can't get his body right. And we're talking about really experienced, hardened players. He's playing a bash crash, competitive style of football. You remember he's 20 years of age too. So we're asking for an old head on young shoulders. With him, he'll mature, he'll get better. Yes, the free kicks he's got to sharpen up on. But really, when you look across that West Coast side, who's stepping in for him? Like, who is actually providing even the grunt or the void that he's trying to fill?
So all it is we love what you're doing. So your football is in a perfect trajectory for the way you're playing. Fantastic football, but look at this free kick count. We can't tolerate this. We're struggling to win games. This is not helping us win games. So, and the energy you are wasting, Harley, it's just, what are you doing? You can focus on taking those bounces. Well, I don't see him take the bounces like he did last year in his first handful of games. So I just think I'm sure they've tried, or if they haven't, it needs to come.
Only hours before that game started, the AFL released a statement publicly pertaining to Jack Graham making a homophobic comment the previous week against GWS, and you can see the various referencing there in that particular statement. There's a 4-match sanction attached to it. He was named to play in the team on official team sheets. That was why the 10:30am Melbourne time release before that game started yesterday did come as a shock to some. Look, the GWS opponent who he directed the comment at, from what we could gather, didn't really feel the need to take it further. The AFL rightly did. The 4 weeks attached to it, Jimmy, there's ambiguity around what's happened in this space in the past and probably where we are now at in 2025 with the 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's a good point, Damon. I think for 18 months, clubs and the AFL Players Association have been crying out for transparency or a matrix of its own of how you arrive at these decisions. We all don't condone the actions, but we actually want a little bit of transparency how we arrive at them and how they're different, weeks suspension, and then you compare that with other misdemeanours as well on and off the field. And again, we're not condoning it or anything like that, but how does one get 3? Is it because one gets 5 because he self-reported? We're just left in the dark, and we just want a bit of transparency, and they've been crying out from all corners of the game.
I had no issue with the 4. I had no issue with it whatsoever.
No,
are you saying it should have been more given the...
No, I have no issue with the suspensions, but like everybody in the game, what is the actual process? So walk us through it. And for 18 months, clubs and the Players Association have been asking for the AFL to provide a matrix of a sort or a decision-making process of how they arrive at these sanctions.
The good thing about this is that it's a point of reflection, and we can actually go back to what the AFL said on the record at different times. So Will Powell, you remember last year, so he got 5 weeks. This is only weeks after what happened with Jeremy Finlayson at Gather-Round. So the bottom 2 paragraphs is what I want to concentrate on. We foreshadowed both publicly and privately that after what transpired at Gather-Round, if a similar incident was to happen, there would be further consequence. So translating that, hey, we warned you, Finlayson got 3. If you guys don't learn, we're going to go harder. They did. And so a year on, and we're going backwards. We've gone from 5 back to 4. So is there a period of time where we all need to learn again? Or I think that's the lack of consistency, and to Jimmy's point, transparency, that we're all struggling.
The only thing I can think of is that what was said wasn't as bad.
No, it was very similar.
It was?
It was very similar.
Very
okay.
similar.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're asking Jimmy the question.
Maybe they've just settled on 4 being the way forward with it.
Did him getting in with the apology help compared to the previous
But Will
one?
Powell did the same thing.
So that's
like he got on the front foot.
So the question you're asking Jimmy, how do you...
Well, I'm also dubious as to why he was named in the team when teams were released on Thursday night, all the way through until Sunday morning before the finding came out. I don't know why it took that long.
But so we've got 3 different suspensions for different homophobic slurs. We've got Bolter missing a month of senior footy for an aggravated assault. We've got a fan being banned for 5 years for a threatening text message. it just kind of feels like it's all over the place. Now, we're not sitting here saying it's easy, and the AFL are governing a game with lots of moving parts, but there is a significant lack of consistency that I think is starting to turn a few people off. You're not turning off Footy Classified, though, because we have got a whole lot more coming up, including Fly's selection headache. Did Gold Coast expose the ageing Pies? And flat track bullies. The Dogs fall short against another top 8 side. That, plus a whole lot more. You're watching Footy Classified. Welcome back to Footy Classified, to the Magpies, who stormed home Matthew Lloyd against the Gold Coast Suns. Couldn't get it done. Now, we were praising Tom Mitchell when he came back into the team against Carlton. You sat here, you weren't exactly sold. A week later, how are you feeling?
You have to be careful you don't flirt with your form, and I thought maybe Collingwood did, and they had the perfect chance to, being 10 points clear. But here was Craig McKay speaking after the game about his Pies midfield.
Yeah, I just didn't love our mids at times tonight. Didn't think we worked hard enough to contest, didn't get our hands dirty enough. But that would be disrespecting the Gold Coast, because I think, if you watch that back, they were really, really dominant around contests and clearance in that first half.
When you look at the players in there, so it's Mitchell, Long and Dacos. So you've got one player who's got the speed and the dynamic nature, and you've got Long and Mitchell, and the two don't go into this side. So I'm really, really strong on that. And then you've got the same two again, and they were just being destroyed. So they were beaten by 18 points through scores. They were beaten by 4 through clearance. First possession, they were -3, and then the next one was even worse. They had Steele side bottom in there with them, which didn't work either. So this is side bottom Mitchell and Long. That didn't work either, and they were exposed. So I thought the Pendlebury coming in, Josh Dacos, Nick Dacos, maybe De Koning when he gets back. They're the best side in it, just in front of Brisbane, but I love Brisbane as well. But it's the lack of leg speed that could potentially get them, and this certainly doesn't help.
Do you cut him some slack, Lloyd, given it was his second game back from a long, sustained period out of the game? Tom Mitchell, I'm referring to.
He's an accumulator, but nothing changes my views.
Yeah.
The other two of them don't work.
Look, he's never going to be short of confidence, Tom Mitchell. He's got reason to be very confident. A brilliant player at 3 footy clubs. Spoke in the week leading into the game about how he feels confident, still being valid member of a Collingwood team.
Like, we've got so much depth in there. Like Longy, you mentioned, he's taken his game to another level. He's been so awesome for us this year, and we are quite different. Like, I know we play same position, but I don't see why we can't play in the same team. And he's a real bull. He breaks tackles. He's a tackling machine. He actually runs and covers the ground really well. Like, his GPS is always really strong. I'm probably more of I love a tackle and pressuring the oppo, but I do it a slightly different way with my handballing and trying to put guys into space. So I think we've got a good mix of guys doing different things.
Jimmy, I want to bring you in here. So with Mitchell, I think if he is to take Long out of the team, he's got to bring others into it. So don't look to say, OK, I want 30 possessions. How can I get 20? But it might be that it's 15 handballs, giving it to Dacos and Pendlebury.
Yeah, it's a good point, Lloyd. So as much as these situations, how can he run and draw the tackle, get Houston involved? Gold Coast certainly closed down that space really well the other night. So you got to, as Fly McRae said, give credit to them. But if Mitchell's going to play, he's got to be high handball player. If it's 20 to 22 touches, but he's getting the ball into those guys' hands, that's when they become really dynamic off his ball use.
Pendlebury won't be sub again, surely. You just don't play him at all?
It was interesting that if you're going to take him all the way there, you play him. They've got their reasons to manage players throughout, but certainly the difference when he came on the ground, and you add into the fact that Took Miller went off as well, so the Suns lost one in their midfield, but he certainly sharpened them up around the midfield, got them more balanced, and they absolutely got flying when he came on the ground. If you want to put
a weight on the ladder, Jimmy, with the game up their sleeve on the Gold Coast Suns, they are 4th on the ladder right now. We'll give them that win for the purpose of this conversation against Essendon at the overhang game. Do you believe in them being a potential grand finalist this year?
Potentially, but they've never been to the finals. And I know Lloydie touches on this a bit. You've got to go to the mountain a few times before.
Do you need to? I know you guys say you do, but what's stopping them?
No, nothing's stopping them, and they are embracing that. And they've got a real grit about them. And I think that's been the impressive thing for me with Gold Coast. There is actually a fair bit of grunt underneath the hood this year, and you throw in Rao, Anderson's been a star. I think they've covered the loss of Ballard pretty well. I think he goes underrated in the competition. Yulen, and you look up in their forward line, they've got a point of difference, 3 big forwards, and then the 3 mid-sized players in Long, Ainsworth and Humphrey can kick goals.
You sat here a few weeks ago and said there are only 3 teams that can win it. So Brisbane, Collingwood, Geelong. Any additions?
Well, Adelaide are super dangerous and Geelong are super dangerous. Sorry, the Giants are super dangerous, I should say. Yep. The Dogs are certainly not one of those teams now, which you could have thought were a chance 2 or 3 weeks ago because they're out of the top 8. And that back line, which everyone talks about, I want to just show Rory Lobb when he burst onto the scene, Sam, and what this looked like. This was him high. And watch who's with him around the vision. There's Liam Jones is sometimes in the picture. Liam Jones is blocking a player out here at the moment, Jai Amos, to allow for this. And in some others, you've got Buku Karmas behind the ball. So there's always someone who can be that player back towards goal. On the weekend, he got caught on Thilthorpe back deep on the goal square. So Luke Berridge can't be stubborn. He cannot be stubborn and keep going and going.
The more he's told to do something, the more he won't do it.
There's Karmas in the back shot. Allow for Rory Lobb to be the person he needs to be. He needs to be another tool in this team. But
what's staggering, to the outsiders at least, that he chose to go with only O'Donnell and Lobb against that powerful, tall Adelaide Crows forward line, and post-match attempted to justify it.
I think if you go and look at what happened in all those instances, it was usually a key back on a key forward where they were marking. So, you make the case either way as to, can the key back do a little bit better in preparation? When it broke down up the field, was that too fluent, that ball movement? I know what the speculation is around how many key backs you play and all that sort of stuff, but ultimately our game and our system and our optimism around plays coming up to speed on how we want to play remains.
Yeah, I think he assessed the game really well, and you highlighted some plays there from Lobb, and the thing that stood out to me was highlighted by Ed Richards and Joe Hannison in the post-game. Ed Richards first.
It was purely tackle efficiency today. I think they were able to break our tackles way too easily and just made us look stupid, to be honest, and then they were just getting their goals way too easily.
The message probably, we were soft today and, we've got to move on pretty quickly. We've got a 6-day break heading up to Brisbane. We've got to look at what we can improve on and definitely some contest work.
Yeah, the contest work. And when you showed those first lot of highlights, Lloydie, with Rory Lobb, there's a lot of pressure around the ball, and the ball was coming long and high, which gave them an opportunity. When we saw the ones against the Adelaide Crows, they were able to actually get their shoulders out, bit of time and space, and then pick their way through the Dogs' forward 50. So whether they bring an extra number to the contest or be better in the contest to give their backs a better opportunity, that's how they're going to play better against the good sides.
Do their midfielders work hard enough?
I think they do work hard enough, so it might be a structural thing to actually set them up. Now, that might be, do you bring a wing in tighter when you play the good sides, or do you bring a half forward up to add that extra number and a bit of cover so the mids can still go to work, but you've got a bit of cover behind you to force a quick kick?
The Crows' win was so impressive on so many fronts, and not least of all for losing Jordan Betts, as they did, basically at quarter time after this incident with Sam Darcy. We're just showing it again because the documentation has, I believe, gone into the AFL today. Just given that Jordan Butts suffered a punctured lung, a collapsed lung, he will tonight spend a third night in a Melbourne hospital, yet to return to Adelaide from that particular moment. And as best the doctors around and the medical officers around the Crows can ascertain it, it was the contact from Darcy. There is no angst, no anger from the club about it being the case, but it does appear at this stage anyway, Lordo, to be the reason that he has had his lung punctured. So that's just I suppose a semi-sign-off on that particular issue. And just in contrast to what the AFL decided to do when Windhager made contact with Dacos off the ball in a relatively similar passage of play. Now, Dacos went to ground, was winded, received a free kick in that moment, but there was a sanction of $1,000 or thereabouts on Windhager for that moment. The AFL, again, rightly, wrongly, make up your own mind on it, chose to do nothing when it came to Sam Darcy.
Pretty similar when we talk about consistency. Is it because he's a tagger? Is that what got him? Marcus Windhager.
Yeah, and there was no punctured lung as an outcome either. So
pretty significant injury, punctured lung, isn't it?
Yes.
Sorry, a collapsed lung.
A collapsed lung, punctured lung.
3 nights in hospital.
It's the third night he'll be in hospital tonight.
That is significant.
And look, there's hope he'll be able to drive. He'll have to drive back to Adelaide with, I believe, a family member or someone very close to him at some stage of the next 48 to 72 hours.
The pressure on a plane.
Yeah.
Yep. Don't go anywhere on Footy Classified. Plenty more coming up, including the draft, the AFL's big dilemma. Welcome back to Footy Classified. OK, this has been on the agenda for a long time now. We need to drill into the nitty-gritty of it. The draft looks like, Lloyd, it could be a farce this year. because of how compromised it could be, particularly in the first round with academies, father-sons.
Yeah, there's a couple of aspects to it. First of all, the picks that the clubs have, and then the kids that are actually in the draft. I find it the most exciting. There's 9 clubs now are out of it, so they're thinking to the draft, and it's already a bit of a dampener because it's so compromised already. So you look at that, we've already picked out 4 guys who are already from the top 10 of the draft, who are already linked to other clubs. Suns times 2.
They'll all go top 10 by
and Sydney, and then you look at this. So if
this is how it could look.
If Oscar Allen gets the compensation, they get pick 2. So top 2 picks are gone. Obviously, if Draper can somehow, the Bombers can get that for him. So there's another. So you've got only 3 or 4 clubs inside top 10 in a very weak draft, Sam. So this is an issue for the AFL that they need to sort out. How can we sort this out and be far stricter on these next generation academies? I'm not too fussed on interstates as much, but it's even some of the academies here in Victoria I don't like.
Hard to put the genie back in the bottle, though, isn't it?
Yeah, they've had a good couple of runs at it, but I'm always mindful of don't make rules because of the exception. So have a longer look at it. Have a 5-year period, not just the last 2 years, and you can bid on them, and that's your right. So you can actually put some pressure on some of those teams as well. How many do you want? If there's multiple players from the Suns, for example, keep bidding on them, and force their hand that way. And I don't always buy into, it's the weakest draft ever. And I know there's people who study it a lot.
We've heard it before, haven't we?
Yeah, I know. There's people who go and watch it a lot harder than I do, but there's plenty of really good talent.
I'm only talking about the academies here mostly and the father-son selections, but that compensation situation for free agency, if Essendon gets that pick, as we outlined there, potentially, after their selections in the draft for Sam Draper being lost as a free agent, I will officially, give it up, I think.
What, you've lost your cynical touch?
Look, they make it out to be whatever it needs to be at a given point in time, but Sam Draper is not worthy of a pick 6 or 7 or 8 in a draft.
What about Oscar Allen? Isn't that worse?
Well, it's in a borderline category with that one. But again, as a captain of a footy club, I can see there's more weight given to his compensation.
At least, I say back in the day, but like when Hawthorn and Richmond and Melbourne, when they were given priority picks, it was because they won, less than 5.5 games in 2 years. So when they got players like Roughhead and Ellis, who ended up being premiership players, we look back on that and maybe laugh, but at least we knew that was the rule then. Whereas now there's this cape of mystery behind it. We don't actually know.
And I don't see why the mystery has to be there. I think the whole competition, we just need to hear that
be transparent about
Allen got between 5 years. He got over 900,000.
Or between 9 and 1.1.
Yeah, whatever, and that's how it fell into pick 2.
Yeah, it miraculously always seems to be what it needs to be at any given point in time. Hey, Lordo, Hawthorn, 13 points up at three-quarter time against the Dockers. It got away from them. Brilliant performance by the Dockers, but the Hawks have left themselves vulnerable on the back of it.
Yeah, I've been looking at them all year and thinking, what's gone wrong for them this year? Why can't they quite find the form? They feel they've been studied a little bit more, but I look at their midfield and say, is this the problem? So they brought in Battle and Barras. Sicily's out of form. Obviously, Weddle's injured. But I look at this midfield, and I don't think that's going to scare anyone in September.
Does it scare them when Will Day comes back in round 20?
It's far better. But I just think if Newcombe is your best and the Ward and McKenzie haven't come on as top 10 picks, I think that is not going to challenge anybody, and that's what they need to do in this off-season for next year to give themselves a chance at winning it.
Yeah, my takeaway was more Freo, and I know the Hawks have got there some issues because the opposition's going to work on them, but on a slippery night, they certainly came with the toughness. They had over 100 tackles.
They weren't vanilla, Jimmy.
No, they weren't vanilla. This was tough and a gritty win, and they're playing for the coach. Of course, there's 7 out of the last 8 they've got, and you've got to actually give them their dues. Get some key players. Swatowski back in that side, of course.
He was great.
He's great. He's dynamic. He just gives that speed away the front half of the hard work of Sarong and Brayshaw.
And 3 of their 12 goals.
Yeah, Jackson as well, midfield, forward as well. I thought Ryan played a really good game as well. We know he can intercept, but he was sort of the one leading the charge with some brutal tackles on the Hawks players, and they were just relentless, Freo, and that was really impressive win against a good side.
Just before we get to the rising star, I'm so with you about the lack of sheer A-grade talent with the Hawks. But if they get one of Merritt, Reid or Butters between now and the next 18 months, that puts them right back in it, doesn't it?
And Sam Mitchell's the best at it.
We know he's the best.
Yep.
Who do you like for the rising star this year? Who's impressed you the most?
I think it's not. I don't think Ashcroft has. He's been a good year, but I don't think he has. So I think for me, it's Reid or Curtin. I think Archie Roberts has found a lot of the football. He's been very good at the Bombers as well. But I think the way Reid and Curtin use it, to me, it's one of those two. Curtin's come
ahead of Harvey Langford.
Yeah,
clearly,
I think so.
Yeah.
He doesn't quite use it as well either. So Curtin's coming with a bullet, but I think per disposal, Reid is just so effective, isn't he, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm a Murphy-Reid fan. That's not diminishing what Curtin's done, especially Curtin in the last 4 weeks. And Ashcroft has been good in that line side. But 4 goals in a quarter against the Cats early in the season, nearly got them over the line, and they blew them away in the end. But every ball he uses, he takes full value.
They don't call him the Velvet Sledgehammer for nothing. Next, it's Lloyd at the Plasma with the Sledgehammer on Footy Classified.
The kicking of Melbourne's best players is still a major problem. Christian Petrarca, how can he be better than this, and what can they do in the latter part of his career to stop turnovers like this inside forward 50? Clayton Oliver, most players like Holmes or someone like that, they try and take the space. I know he's not as quick, but look at Max Gawn. He's just there saying, put it to my favourite side, and that ball just gets sat on the heads of everyone. They've got to be better. But the positive of Petrarca, I love him inside forward 50. Dylan Stevens works back as a defensive winger. Great spot, but look at the size, the power, the strength. Play him inside 20 or 30 more. That's where he's at his best. The Bombers, they lose a tight one. I hate this. This is one of the biggest pet hates. I know he's young Archer May, but players who switch off as forwards and let Banks run in and kick an open goal, that hurts. Cooper Sharman, they lost the game. But what about this, one of the efforts of the year? So forwards who can get back. Look at the speed. Effort number 2, then effort number 3 to get back, win the ball, get it over. This guy, Hall, what a star he's becoming for St Kilda. Dunkley, Damo and I love Josh Dunkley. He's a heartbeat. Talk about pressure. So early in the game, they need to ramp up their pressure. Leaves Cripps, comes forward, gets a hand in. I thought that set the tone for Brisbane to go crunch, bang on Carlton and show them what they need to do. I love Kane Farrell as well. Yes, he's got his flaws, but this was in round 5. What a lethal left foot he's got. So when you watch him play, so this is round 6, he can roll to one side. A lot of other clubs kick it sidewards and backwards, but Kane Farrell again on the week, and this is the best of the lot. So he goes straight down, lace out, favoured side. Not many can do that. So if I was another club, I'd maybe offer him a few extra 100,000 a year or something, trying to prize him out of Port Adelaide.
I like it, Lloydie. Sledgehammer going from strength to strength. Damo, tough day on Sunday for the North Melbourne Footy Club, and things get a little tougher now with Tristan Xerri out for 3 weeks.
Well, they get to this stage, they've only won 4 matches, and they're now got to play 3 matches without Tristan Xerri after this very serious hit on Tom Sparrow, who went out immediately and will clearly miss matches himself now with the protocols attached to all of that. It was going to be difficult, Jimmy, wasn't it, to see him getting anything other than 3 weeks at the moment you saw that?
Yeah, so it was a footy act, but the player was concussed. And so, 3 weeks, I think. It probably just highlights they still need to review that matrix when Greg Swan and Tom Harley get in there.
Yep, you've been strong on that for a while now. So 3 weeks for Xerri from North Melbourne, and another serious concussion setback for Tom McCartin. It's hard seeing this given the history and also with his brother.
Yeah, fingers crossed he can just recover well. Like I heard Joel Selwood say once that he's never had a headache or anything carry from his hit. So just fingers crossed McCartin can recover.
Yeah,
well.
the history of it for Tom, it goes back to 2019 where he missed 3 matches in that particular season with a head issue. Lordo in 2023 missed 9 matches, and last year missed 4 games. He's going to be missing next week at the very least on the back of being in the protocols after that incident on the weekend.
I think to your point and the Selwood comments, that's what makes it so hard for the game to mitigate against and also to litigate when it's so individual. And we've seen even long term with CTE and what we've learnt from some of the research in the NFL, it's so individualised.
Oh, it is. Yeah, some players, like I heard Whitfield last week, just didn't feel right. Didn't feel good all week, so he missed another game. So, it's just on an individual basis. But we're handling it better than we ever have before.
Don't go anywhere on Footy Classified. Lots more coming up, including Good Call, Bad Call and the Closing Cook. Jimmy Bartel to kick us off on Good Call, Bad Call. James, Tom Morris is the only one who seems not to be watching Footy Classified on Monday's Good Call, Bad Call.
Sam, before I answer it, I might have to have a look at our fearless leader on Footy Furnace last night, trying to wrap up the show.
Classified is on Monday night. Sam McClure, Jimmy Bartel, Lordo, and of course, who's the other one? Damo.
That felt deliberate. That felt targeted to me.
In our man's defence, he had a bit of jet lag coming back from Turkey. He had a bit of work done. So good call by you, Sam.
That's nasty.
Why was he in Turkey, Jimmy? No, don't answer that. Hey, Sam, if you're going to prepare a line, you'd better nail it. Good call, bad call.
As much as this pains me to say it about my mentor, Jared Healy, this is a good call.
Just in a Bruce Spring Street Springsteen Award, Born to Run, Wanganeen Miller is 211 metres gained.
He had the perfect preparation.
It's a good line.
Yeah, it was just the execution that he faltered.
Damo, Saints fans are the most thoughtful fans in the competition. Good call, bad call.
It's a really good call, Lord. I like it because this fan is offering a community service to the umpire here. He's actually providing his own goggles to allow that umpire to see more clearly. Good call.
Lloydie, Sports Science has just gone a touch too far. Good call, bad call.
Good call, eagle eye call by you, Jimmy, because Geelong get a lot right, but they didn't on the weekend. So here's the Cats kicking the ball forward. Look at the two of them charging off at the one time and locking midfield. It's the easiest touch I've ever received in my life.
Chris got to have some feedback.
Hey, Damo, Lordo's stardom is not just limited to Australia.
This might be the call of the year. What you're about to hear is peak West Indies superstardom in cricket. Carl Hooper speaking with Corbin Middlemas.
Well, the first game I watched, this is going back years ago. This is the ground down. It was down at West Lakes. The old Footy Park? Yeah, I think it was a game against Crows versus the Bombers, Essendon. And I had this guy, Lloyd, was running amok. He was kicking goals like crazy. So that's the first game that I saw. I didn't understand all the rules, but Lloyd just stood out. So I said I'm a Bombers fan.
How did that get on? How did that get onto the rundown?
Lordo, you demanded that.
Matthew Lloyd.
Matthew Lloyd.
Got a Carlton one here for you, Sam, to make you happy. Mark Pitnet's talk was the highlight of Carlton's season. Good call, bad call.
I would love to say this is a nasty call, but in the end, it's just an accurate call. I think this is the only time the Carlton fans have been able to smile on the weekend.
Onto it.
He hit it pretty flush, the big pit.
It cleared it.
He launched 62 metres that went, by the way. Not bad.
Jimmy,
look at him celebrating like they won a final.
Hey, speaking of another ruckman, Jimmy, ruckmen need to know their limitations. Good call, bad call.
Let's have a look at our big man, Brodie Grundy, trying to take the man on the mark here.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I reckon when he got around, he went, oh, no, I'm in too deep here. But he's been in cracking form, but still a good call from you, Lloydie.
And, Lordo, to round us off, football's nicest man let his colleague down yesterday. Good call, bad call.
It's a bad call from you tonight, Dame. I'm not sure what else Brad Johnson could do with this that he was served up from Jimmy's ex-teammate Cam Mooney.
Now, number 4 for inside 50 round ball guest, Jono. For people playing at home, what does that mean?
It means that if the ball's on the ground inside 50, you pick it up. you get a stats ball. It's a ground ball. That's a ground ball.
Oh, the smiling assassin.
He was laughing.